Happy Friday, everybody. If you're watching this from various platforms, welcome. My name is James Marin, Integrative Registered Dietitian, Environmental Nutritionist, and you guys will see I am joined here by some other two really cool individuals. Let's see, I'm trying to fix that. There we go. And I'll let them introduce themselves right now.
Go ahead.
My name is Giacomo Marchesi. I've been vegan for about 15 to 20 years. I've lost count. I am a competitive vegan bodybuilder. I've been a competitive powerlifter in other sports as well. And I am the co-founder of the Vegan Strong Plant Build team.
Yeah, and I'm Danny Taylor. I'm Giacomo Marchesi's wife. I have been vegan for 20 years now. Actually, I just celebrated my 20th year anniversary, and I have a history of a tremendous amount of weight loss that happened shortly after I went vegan, and now I compete in figure, which is a category of bodybuilding, and I'm a full-time coach to vegan athletes. And I also co-founded the Plant Build team with Giacomo.
That's wonderful. I mean, we're excited because for those that don't know, and then unfortunately Dahlia is not here today, but we're also a husband-wife team, and we started Married to Health, which is a plant-based dietetics practice. We have 7 other registered dietitians where we're doing integrative medical nutrition therapy that is very much plant-based, integrative focus, where we're getting to the root cause of what's going on. So this is kind of a blending of two worlds where it's really cool. And we get some different perspectives and insights where I think still we're very in early stages where it's like, what? You could be plant-based or 100% plant-based vegan and like be a bodybuilder and be healthy and be strong. And then with us, it's like, oh, you can eat plants to reverse chronic disease and reverse your symptoms. And so there's a lot of like head scratching with all this. Like, well, I thought you need meat and I thought you need milk and I thought you need eggs. And, so all these questions come to mind. So tell us, I mean, we'll start with both of you. I mean, like, what was your journeys? Like, how did you go from, because I know I always say, like, I was an omnivore, right? I grew up in the 90s. I was eating Pop-Tarts and tons of meat and sugary cereals and, all the 90s junk food mixed in with all the processed animal food you can imagine. So when I'm here going like, yeah, I've been 100% plant-based for the last 11 years, that like wasn't a goal for me, right? Or I don't know, was it a goal for you guys or what was your experience with that?
You want to go first?
Sure, why not?
We have very different reasons
Right.
and ways we got into plant-based living.
Yeah.
Honestly, I never came across the word vegan growing up. I came across the word when I was already focused on becoming a competitive athlete, and I was already into sport since high school, and I had gotten out of college and did a bodybuilding show, and I was dating somebody and their mom had a heart attack, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like there's got to be a solution. Like I'm into health. There's solutions for everything, right? And to make a long story short, I realized like she was just so happy that Western medicine fixed up, and they were like, you stress too much, so let's stress less. You remember the heart attack? I'm like, that doesn't fit well with me. Something's missing here. And what if other people get heart attacks? And oh my gosh, like I don't like to see people suffering, especially people I love. So I looked around and I was like, okay, what information can I come across? And all roads pointed to eating a predominantly plant-based diet, and the dare was to go vegan. It was like, put some meat on your plate, but if you do, it should be a condiment. Kind of like you ever look at Chinese food, like pork fried rice, little tiny bits, but it's mostly vegetables and grain. And that stuck with me in terms of health. Growing up, I wanted to make a tennis team. I wanted girls to notice me. I wanted to have confidence in myself, and I didn't want to be bullied anymore. And those are my reasons for becoming athletic. I also was athletic when I was a little bitty, but I was also afraid of getting hit by the baseball. So I stopped, but then I started again. So long story short, bodybuilding kept me safe from getting hit in the face right here and breaking my glasses from a baseball, gave me confidence in my own skin and my body, gave me control over looking the way that I wanted to look. I really fell in love with being able to change my body and make it anything I wanted to be. And then to do it in a way where I'm compassionate, I am ethical. So like I'm leaving less of a footprint on the earth, environmentally speaking. And I'm healthy. I can live long term. Anything you want to do in life, it's a marathon, not a sprint, even outside of sport. So the healthier you are, the clearer you are. And not only the more like your actions meet your intentions, because you can just pretty much do damn near anything when you like hack yourself and you make yourself healthy from the inside out. That's my story.
Love it. And
Mine is very different. So it sounds like I grew up eating more similarly to the way you ate.
yeah,
We didn't have a lot of money. Really highly processed foods were very cheap. So we ate a lot of those, like macaroni, the cheap macaroni and cheese, hot dogs, constantly. I thought vegetables were just like the frozen diced blend of like lima, carrot, green bean, corn. Everybody knows that blend, right? Everybody had that in the 90s, I think.
yeah, yeah,
And I grew up very overweight. And I
yeah.
always just thought that that was a genetic thing because everybody in my family was overweight. So I wasn't too upset about it because I just thought that was just kind of who we were. And I went
Mhm.
vegetarian really young at 8 years old for ethical reasons.
Mm,
I connected, the animals at the farm were the animals on my plate. I didn't want to do that. So much to my parents' upsettedness, I stopped eating meat then. But I did eat a lot of dairy and a lot of eggs for a long time. And I was about 215 pounds by the time I was
mhm.
16 years old.
Wow.
I was writing a research paper about vegetarianism for an English class. And in doing that, this was like 2002, I stumbled across a website that talked about veganism and the connection between the dairy and egg industry and the meat industry that I just had never ever thought of. And I said, I don't want to support this. I'm done. And I went vegan overnight, not knowing anything
Mm,
about health or nutrition or anything. I just did it, as kids sometimes make us rash decisions there, but it turned out to be the best one I ever made. A couple months later, I went to the doctor for just a checkup, and I stood on the scale and I was about 185 pounds. And they said, "Oh, you're down 30 pounds." And I thought, what? Like, I'm
wow.
eating bagels and French fries. And what do you mean I'm down 30 pounds? But, it wasn't a very healthy way that I did it, but it was the first time that it dawned on me that maybe my own body was actually more in my control than I had thought that it was. And from there, I started to actually learn about nutrition, try new fruits and vegetables, try different types of plant based cuisines, got into exercising, eventually weightlifting. The rest is history, basically.
God, I mean, so much there, and I can relate so much to that. I was a morbidly obese child as well, and I mean, that's like, it's like, what outcome do we expect? When I was eating like carnitas and I was eating the ground beef, so it's like high fatty or highly processed fatty meat mixed with lots of cheese and then lots of processed sugary foods. Like, what other outcome, you know?
Yeah.
So I totally relate to that, and I mean, there's so much healing there too because in so many ways, like you both are saying, it parallels. Like what's going on inside of us can parallel the outside in terms of
Mhm.
whether you're talking about the outside environment, whether you're talking your home environment. It's like if we start from the inside, at least this is what I found as well. You're starting from the inside and kind of healing this inner ecosystem. It translates to many ecosystems in multiple layers, like a ripple effect on the
Yeah.
outside. And I could totally relate with that. And same, I remember falling in love with sports in high school and realizing, oh, I can actually lose weight and shape
Mm.
my body, and this feels really great. It gave me more confidence and just continuing down that path of like, wow, fitness. Oh, wow. Oh, nutrition. Oh, what you eat actually shapes your body. Who knew that, what is making up your cells impacts your body? It's like, oh, okay. No brainer,
Think
right?
about it,
So
it's obvious, but we don't think about it, especially when we're younger, we don't think about it.
no, and yeah, and I think what's really cool is I think a lot of younger people are thinking about it. It's just I think there's so much now, right? With like TikTok, and I think Snapchat is still a thing. From my niece tells me
Mhm.
Snapchat is still a thing, but like TikTok's really taken over. But even here, like on YouTube, or even, I mean, Facebook is still active, and there's just so much out there now. So as we are considered extreme by some people, going like, you guys don't eat any animals, like that's crazy. We
Mhm.
kind of have the other end of the spectrum that's like, we only eat animals. Now we're going carnivore, now we're going keto. And so there's so much in the in between, and it is just kind of what we find ourselves. And I don't know if you guys feel the same way. I definitely want to get your thoughts on this. Is we find ourselves needing to curate information. It's like there's information overload, and like, how do we curate? So I want to know your guys' thoughts on that. Like when you're seeing clients or in your community, I mean, when you're getting all these, maybe you're getting the same questions over and over again, how are you kind of facilitating that? How are you kind of cutting through the noise and be like, hey, look, here, let me explain this to you? Or, you can start with any of that.
Yeah. So my approach, and I think our approach really is first we look at the client as an individual. first and
Mm,
foremost, and we decide what their goals are. We both are competitive bodybuilders. Our needs are going to be very different than somebody who just wants to be healthier and be able to play with their kids and not have like back pain. So
right.
we always want to look at what is sort of the minimum effective dose that we need here in terms of training, in terms of how nitpicky do we really need you to be about your diet in order for you to reach those goals. Because sometimes too much information, like you just said, can be too much, and it's enough to scare people away from the whole thing entirely. So we want to give them just the tools, the building blocks that will actually move them forward. And I don't want them to stress about the 2% at the top. It's too much
Yeah.
for most people. So if we get to a point where we're working with a world-class competitor, yeah, the 2% matters. But for most people, it's the 90% that's going to get you almost all the way there.
Yeah.
It's a hard sale because people want the magic pill.
Yeah.
They want the information they don't have and they want it now.
Mhm.
So
Right.
to tell someone like, focus on your bottom of your pyramid, sleep well, drink a lot of water, and eat whole foods, and you're like, why did I come to you? I knew that. Like, screw you. Like, I'm not where I work with you. I'm like, no, this is what you need to focus on. And
Right.
as you prove to yourself that your lifestyle is sustainable and you can do this, we get more and more granular with it.
Well, it's more like if you can't do those things, we're not going to start harping at you about your meal timing. Let's
Yeah.
just see if we can get you sleeping and drinking water and including vegetables in your day before we start talking about supplementation.
And to add in, some people get so hung up on the details that they lose sight of the big picture, and they wind up, I don't want to say they're obsessive compulsive. However, they're making wrong decisions and they're creating anxiety where there doesn't need to be any. Not that they can't handle it and adapt to it, and it's just stress. They're stress adapted, but like, why don't you clear up your headspace and your time to do things in a way that actually works? And I find that that is the solution for most people that we work with. They get so into the process, so into the details, that they forget that simplification makes them more than efficient. It makes them happy,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to blaming
Right.
themselves because their consequences are they can't do it.
I totally agree. I love that. You guys definitely, that is a very similar answer we give, where it is individualized and there's many things to touch on there. I mean, it can be overwhelming, and that's where working with someone who knows, who has the experience, knows what they're talking about, has been around the block, has their own even story, even better, has been through kind of what even your community or your clients are going through, is so important. And that's where, again, that's why I go back to that idea of like curation, right? Whether you're going to like a wine connoisseur or you're buying a house or you go to an expert to help you kind of cut through and individualize an action plan and
Yeah.
get you what you need. But it can be difficult because so many times, like, our patients don't really know what they need, or they think they
Right.
know what they need, but it's completely, like you said, it's focusing on maybe too many of the nuances. It's
Mm-hmm.
getting a little bit too, I mean, we see this with like gut issues, right? It's like, okay, I got to cut out oxalates,
Right.
histamines, phytates are bad, but you're telling me to go plant-based. There's phytates and
Yes.
grains, and that's bad. And then you look at their supplements. I'm just taking 15 supplements, and this is, and it's like, wow, it's like, yes, there's some truths there, but when you're
Mhm.
focusing too much on the details, these become like an avalanche and it hinders your progress. So,
And often then you don't know what's working and what's not working. Also,
right.
when you have too much going on, it's hard to say, okay, this definitely made a difference or this made no difference. You have to do it piece by piece. And, that can take, I mean, I'm sure hopefully it's different with gut issues where, you're hoping to heal somebody relatively quickly. But in what we do, it can take a lifetime, a
Right.
lifetime to build the physique or reach the particular goals that you're trying to.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. I mean, yeah, and with gut issues, like you said, it's very individualized. And I think we posted something recently, or I did. I got like a scratch on my knee. Like I scratched my knee while I was running outdoors recently, and it brought up, like, I wanted to post about it because again, the epithelial cells on our skin represent the epithelial cells they're modified in our gut.
Mhm.
And we don't think about this, like you guys were saying, like the simple things we just don't think about, or sometimes people do, but they just don't realize what exactly it means. Where it's like, yeah, I know I have skin, but like, isn't it so cool that it heals? Like, I mean, when you really stop to think about that, like, isn't that cool? Like, your muscles can do that, like your
Right.
gut lining can do that, like your liver can do that. And it really speaks to like, what are you giving it to heal, right? And when you just kind of point it out in a certain way or reframe it a bit, people go, "Oh, wow, that is pretty cool. I didn't really think
Yeah.
about that." So it goes to like, how far in the hole are you, like that we find, like how much gut damage have you done, or to again complementary organ systems like thyroid damage and things like that. And it's like, then it just depends. What could maybe take someone 2 months to be like, wow, I feel like a new person, it might
Mhm.
take someone else 2 years, and it
Right.
just, everyone's a little bit different with that.
Yeah, and it's why you cannot compare your journey to somebody else's journey, because even if on the outside we all kind of look similar, like no, people are very, very different, and bodies have very different responses and different starting places and things like that.
Yeah, I love that. I see a question coming in. I mean, I didn't do you guys wanna maybe answer a question possibly?
Sure.
Yeah, I know this was just kind of a conversation, but I love it. I love when we get questions. So we do have a question. This one's pretty interesting. I'm a competitive power lifter. I used to be pre-diabetic and insulin resistant. A1C is currently 5.2, no longer insulin resistant. When attempting to go plant-based, I found it very difficult to control my blood sugar from spiking. After I have, and I'll read the rest of it over here, after I have had it under control, when eating animal protein along with vegetables and healthy fats, I can control. Any suggestions? So it sounds like what she's saying is, when going fully plant-based, she seems to not be able to control blood sugar, but when adding animal protein, she's controlling blood sugar. Do you guys find that in your clients or community, or anyone coming to you like, "Hey, I wanna stop with animal protein, but it's doing this positive effect that I'm seeing, and like, what
Oh
do I
yeah,
do?"
not
Yeah,
this one, not this one specifically.
right,
And it is important for us to both say neither one of us are doctors. We are not
right.
registered dietitians.
Yes, let's
But
get that disclaimer out there where this is not specific medical advice. I know we have that like on our channel and stuff like that, but
Mhm.
yeah, but this is not specific. This, we're going to give general, and then as a dietitian, I'll weigh in, and definitely consult with your care team. This is
Mhm.
where a care team is very important. And like with us, just really quickly, like, we love functional, we love integrative, we love Western as well. We pick the good from everything to give a comprehensive action plan that is just balanced, right? Yeah, but go for it.
So not not this specifically about blood sugar spiking, and I do think that that is something that you should talk to a medical professional about, but just something that I've observed from not plant-based athletes, omnivorous athletes transitioning into plant-based, is a lot of times they are decreasing their protein. Um, with so oftentimes without even thinking about it, without realizing it. So if the sort of balance of macronutrient intake that she was having success with her blood sugar before, if it's totally different now, that could have
Mm.
something to do with it. So a lot of people in the fitness realm go from uh, meat eating, dairy eating, egg eating to 100% whole food plant based, thinking that that's
Mhm.
going to completely support their training. And if your training is hard as a competitive power lifter trains, which is insane, the demands you're putting on your body to do
Right.
that are insane.
Mhm.
Um, you might need to focus a little bit more on plant-based proteins than maybe the vegan world at large has insinuated that you do.
Mhm.
Yes. I would agree with that as well.
Yeah, I
I
would be
mean, yeah.
curious to hear your thoughts on it, honestly.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with that as well. I think, like, for example, I think the current research and protein recommendations like zero point 0.8 grams per kilogram, and then you have a range of like zero point 0.8 to 1.2
Right.
grams per kilogram. This isn't pound per
Mhm.
kilogram, so it's a lot less than people think. Especially those in the United States, that's like on the pound versus the metric system.
Right.
But I find I'm not like competitive, but I do exercise at least 6 days a week, and
Mhm.
it's not purely weightlifting. It's a little bit of yoga and things like cardio and things like that. But I find I feel better at that upper end, if not some days a little bit more. And I do like
Yeah.
more plant protein in my diet. I feel better with it. And I monitor my labs and things like that. So it's interesting. This is where it's very individualized. And then speaking generally, it goes back to again individuality of like, yeah, what are you replacing? Like when you take out the animal protein, again, yeah, what are those macros? What are those ratios? What is that composition of your meal? And then keeping in mind, I hope we're aware of this, or the person who's asking is aware of this, but like when are you testing your blood? Because
Right.
increasing blood sugar after you eat is normal, and that's where it goes into like postprandial. We get into like the details of like postprandial fasting and knowing, and because I don't think she said A1C is high. It's just her blood sugar spike. So after eating, okay, good. I'm seeing you saying 1 hour after. Okay, so postprandial, if it's going high, then yeah, you want to look at that. And I can't emphasize this enough generally is looking at trends, right? So you want to look at your trends of your blood sugar, whether you're using a glucose monitor or an app of some sort, or just labs that you're getting done every 3 to 6 months if you're doing that, and look at your trends. So if overall trends are looking a little off and A1C is a good indicator of that, then definitely go with that. Mention that to your care team. Um, and look into that a little bit more. But yeah, I know there's so many nuances there. That's why I would say check in with a good registered dietitian, or a good fitness trainer, fitness instructor, or depending what your goals are, and just get that care team a little more filled out. And that way you kind of getting a little bit of everyone's opinion to kind of formulate what's best for you. That's really what it comes down to. Because as much as people want, like, hey, Facebook, what is this? Or I'm gonna go
Right.
on YouTube, and like you can get
Yeah.
great information, but
Mhm.
there's nothing like a care team that's dedicated to you, especially if you have dedicated goals that you want. Like, so important.
And I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
just to chime in here so I can give a little feedback as well, simply put, the healthy fat and animal protein approach that you're using that works for you, you can
Mhm.
swap those things out nutritionally speaking
Mhm.
with healthy fats that are obviously plant-based, as well as healthy proteins that are plant-based, with a very similar makeup as far as your balance of food goes.
Yeah.
So, and then you can continue with your care team to sort out what you're looking to do and how you're looking to do it nutritionally.
Yeah, I would also say that one of the number one reasons why I see people fail at going plant based is that they have their traditional sort of meat and potatoes and veggie dinner, and then they just take the meat off of it, but they just don't replace it. And what they don't realize is not only has their macronutrient profile, like percentage wise, changed dramatically here, but also the amount of calories that they're taking in has dropped so much that 2 3 weeks later they feel like crap. They think it's veganism, they think it's the plant-based
Right.
diet, when really it's the overwhelming decrease in energy intake that they just might not have even noticed. So
Right.
Yeah.
don't be afraid to eat more when you transition to a lower calorie density type of diet, for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then adding, I mean, I've said this a lot before, but a great context is also gut microbiome, right? Because if you've been eating a certain way for a while, your gut microbes have adjusted to that all the way from mouth to anus, and you've created kind of this ecosystem for the specific nutrients you're putting in. When you shift that, let's say it's rapid or it's over time, and again, everyone's kind of different. Some can do really well. Like I know you mentioned you went overnight. Like I'm switching overnight, and some do really well with that. And there's many factors to that. Appendix plays a role, and your colon, and even omega-3 levels, and there's so many different factors that we don't think about. But then others we hear, it's like, I tried to go overnight and I just felt horrible. And especially if they're powerlifting or they're running or they're trying to do marathons, adding even that layer even complicates it even more. So
Right.
Mhm.
it's realizing never in human history have we been able to shift our diet so rapidly, right? Like
It's an interesting point.
I could literally be I've been 100% plant-based, or vegan, whatever you want to call it, for the last 11 years. Tomorrow I can decide I'm going to go keto. Not that I would, but I could go to my grocery store and just get all the meat and cheese and everything and do it.
Yeah.
Never before. I mean, go back 500 years or even less, you couldn't do that. So we have, for the majority of human history, if you wanted to rapidly change your diet, you're talking about a long walk or horse ride that would take several months or years to get you to a whole new ecosystem where there's a whole new diverse array of food. And that is important context, right?
Yeah.
So our body and our organ systems and our physiology has evolved over that time period to do that, where now it's like boom. And literally, I mean, some celebrities like, I'm going on a private jet to Dubai and I'm going to eat over there and I'm going to then come back over here, and it's like we're zooming around this world like never before. So it's a very, very interesting time and
Yeah.
context to consider for
I've
sure.
never thought about that in the context of our gut microbiome and how quickly it needs to catch up in order for us to feel good. But that's a really great point.
Yeah, and we got a comment. Yeah, I think maybe slowly reduce this from the same. So Debbie, thanks Debbie for the questions. We love it. Maybe slowly reduce animal protein so my body adjusts. We'll watch those macros. Yeah, and it is. And sometimes it's patience, right? Like I see this. We see this with our clients all the time. Like it's a small percentage of our practice like that we see this, but we have those patients that are like, hey, I had a visit and I'm just not seeing the results, and they're messaging through the patient portal like a couple of days later, and it's like you just
Mhm.
had one visit. And so we try to give that context of like, hey, it's going to be more than one visit, right? Depending, especially if you are a very complicated case and you need a lot of attention and tools and planning, it's going to take more than one visit. So it is being patient. I always say, like, however much time it took you to get to where you don't want to be, give at least half
Yeah.
of that to where you do want to be, at a rough estimate. I mean, do you guys find that as
Oh
well?
yeah.
Or
Oh yeah. In the fitness world, people want results yesterday.
right,
So, and there's no easy way. There's no easy way to get fit and healthy. It takes time. So
right.
yeah, we're constantly talking to people about, yeah, this is, if you really want this, not only if you want this, but if you want to keep it, because I think a lot of people can get the results, but keeping it is an entirely different story.
Oh
We're going to
man.
have to move slowly. The slower we move towards it, the longer you get to keep it. That's what I usually tell people.
Oh man, yeah. Oh, so true. I mean, that's the other factor is, yeah, the patience leading up to getting the results and then keeping them. And
Yeah.
I mean, that's a whole, oh my gosh. Yeah, I remember it's like, I'm sure I come to you like, hey, I got a wedding in a month. Like, all right, like, so I want to do this and this and this. And it's like, oh, okay. But then like what happens after that wedding, right? Like, or what happens after beach season?
Yeah.
And how are you going to maintain this? What are you going to do? And I mean, how do you guys feel? I mean, I know I found being plant-based has helped me just on my day to day, not when I'm trying to like lose a couple pounds for a wedding or for, summertime, but just on my day to day of like, I really don't have to think too hard. Just as an average person working out of like, okay, I got to count this calorie, I got to count that. And I like eating plant-based has just kind of simplified it for me. I mean, how do you guys feel about that? I mean, I know that's how I feel, but I don't know if your clients kind of feel the same with that.
I feel like eating plant-based gives you more energy, so there's a reward there. It also gives you the opportunity to feel healthier because your foods are more fibrous, so your digestion improves.
Yeah.
And you typically wind up having more food on your plate because foods tend to be voluminous,
Yeah.
right? There's water in them when it comes to fresh whole foods, and nutrients give you energy. So not to say that that's what happens, but
Mhm.
typically when it comes to hunger, even when you're triggered by your emotions, even when you're triggered by your stress, and that does affect how you behave, your behavior around food, like on an instinctual primal level, your hunger signals are much more regulated and you're more satisfied because you are eating the rainbow, so to speak, and it's enjoyable, right? I
Yeah.
think it's a little challenging at first because you're changing, your palate's changing, and your food preferences and choices are changing, and your meals are changing. But on the whole, I think it's a step in the right direction in terms of being using, like, adding to your toolkit not only macros, adding the idea of intuition to your toolkit when it comes to what you choose to eat and how you choose to
Yeah.
eat and when.
And I think some of that is kind of a ripple effect, right? It's like you mentioned before, going plant based usually isn't the only change somebody makes. It's usually they do that, maybe they start moving their body more because they have more energy or they feel better. I do think all of those little things that seem to happen for a lot of people who go plant based do make kind of just walking around healthier and fitter on a day-to-day basis easier. That's what I found, is that it does do that, but then it's like, I feel like it gets you at a pretty happy, healthy level just walking around day to day. But then there are folks who, like you said, they have a wedding or they have a competition or they have a vacation or they just want to see abs for the first time in their life just because they want to see them. That goal, the difference from walking around happy, healthy to that like kind of shredded looking goal, that's still hard. That's still hard even when you're plant-based. And that's kind of what we specialize in, is helping people get to that place, but also being totally honest with them. You know, if someone came and said, I need to be ready for a month in a wedding, and say, we can do it. It's going to be for the wedding only, because what it's going to take to get you from here to there in that period of time is not something that you should be doing for much longer than that period.
I definitely want to speak to that more, because it's just the realistic goals a little bit. And with that, like going from, like, I feel good. Like, obviously, I mean, I see my abs sometimes in the morning, but the lower abs are a little bit harder. And it's like, okay, I kind of, I carry a little more body weight than I'd like. And at times, and I sit a lot, right? Like my job, like we run a private practice. I'm sitting a lot. I'm on the computer a lot. So I'm kind of realistic with that, but I want to speak to that, because then I go and I see, like who's probably the most ripped right now. Like I'm thinking of kind of the older actors, but like even right now, I mean, you see these ripped actors, right? Or you're seeing like any of the Marvel movies, you point them out and they're just like shredded and ripped and huge. And it's like going from just an average kind of like fitness to then taking it to that level, or like what you guys are doing, like bodybuilding. I mean, I want to kind of give the context, or if you can share your experience with the audience of like, look, having this realistic goal, saying like, okay, I want to be shredded every single day of my life, 24/7. How hard is that? How big is that jump, or what does that take? Like, definitely speak more to that.
This is my topic. This is my
Yeah.
most topic here.
Yeah.
Very, very few people can just walk around like that. They are genetic freaks. And I mean that in the best way possible.
Right.
The vast majority of people, and I am in that camp 100%. Yes, I compete on a bodybuilding stage, and then I very quickly put on 10 to 15 pounds of body fat, because at that point, and I think this is what a lot of people don't know, and social media has exacerbated this to the umpteenth degree. At that point, I'm not healthy. I'm not healthy at that point anymore. I absolutely, if you were to test my blood levels, my thyroid's doing some wacky things. My skin is not good. There's no more menses happening. My hair is not in good shape. It looks great on the stage, and hopefully I will win a trophy on that day. But, when you take a picture of it and it lives forever on Instagram, people say, I want to do that. I want to look like that. And it's like, I don't even look like that. I look like that for that competition. Now, maybe it's different for, say, Marvel actors who have all the money in the world for the, in-house chefs and trainers and pharmaceuticals at their disposal as well, that they're being paid millions of dollars for. It's a different ball game. But even like the Instagram and TikTok fitness models that you see, if they are walking around looking like that all of the time, chances are there's some stuff happening behind the curtain that you don't know about. They might be having some struggles either physically or mentally to stay that way. And it actually is much better for most people to just have a little bit of body fat on their body. You're going to feel better. You're going to perform better. Your moods are going to be better. Your sleep is going to be better. Your digestion is going to be so much better. I didn't even talk about that. Nobody's pooping at the end of bodybuilding prep. Like, it is not a good time. But, they're not talking about that while you're all blitzed and glammed up on the stage. But that's the truth. Right. So,
that's true.
Okay, I'm off my soapbox now.
Can I hop on?
Yeah, we could hear about
hop on.
Well, I don't know that I have a soapbox, but I think I have some ideas, like general rules of thumb, or that where you want to be within 1 year, it takes 5 years. And in order to get there, to Danny's point with having body fat's the answer. And you can be leaner and fuller and be shredded for periods of time, but you'll do yourself a disservice for actually changing your body's shape, because you need muscle. You can't look toned and you can't look muscular, however you want to frame it, if you don't have muscle tissue.
Yeah.
So having body fat, I feel like staying on the higher end of an athletic look as far as your body fat range goes is where you can stay and feel comfortable in your own skin, body composition wise, and still put on muscle. But once you've like dialed in your once you've dialed in your physique and you found like your happy place, meaning like let's say you came from a place of I need weight loss, and you come to that place where your look is you are on the higher end of an athletic body fat composition. Once you're there, like I encourage you to put on even more body fat than that if you're looking to change, because that's where you're going to perform, recover in all areas of your life, including your athleticism. So, and then every once in a while, you can be leaner and fuller as opposed to getting addicted to dieting down and being leaner and lighter. That's not a good feeling. People get hung up on leaner and lighter, leaner and fuller 5 years down the road. Put the work in for 5 years with keeping more weight on your frame once you've like accomplish a weight loss goal, if that's a thing, or a weight gain goal.
Yeah, and I love that. I love that you guys are so open and honest about that. I mean, it's great because we've seen that as well. Like the bodybuilders. I mean, yeah, it's not, the behind the scenes, behind that Instagram picture, there's a lot going on. Like you mentioned, like everything you mentioned, like, hey, menses stopped and digestion's not so great, and it's for a short time. It's like kind of, and it's like this with any kind of, I think, elite sport where if you're doing an ultra marathon or you're doing like these really extreme sports, it's like at the point of it, at the climax of it, I guarantee you're not feeling good. I guarantee you're not super healthy, but you're trying to do something that is very, very hard to do, and then that recovery aspect afterwards is super important. And then to bring this back to kind of just the general population, it's like I try, like when we have a really severe IBS patient or SIBO, and it's like you have to understand your body's already almost that extreme stress level, because in the same way a very high level bodybuilding competition or ultra marathon, that is extreme stress. It's in the form of extreme physical stress, but many people are suffering with extreme mental stress, extreme emotional stress, extreme physical stress in the form of IBS or Crohn's disease, or that is extreme. So we do have the patients that are like, I have to run, I have to exercise, even though they're going through a Crohn's flare, or like they're going through extreme IBS, where like one day they're in bed debilitated, and the next day they're trying to go exercise at the gym. And it's like, whoa, hold on here. Like, you have to have, realistic expectations here. You have to understand the context of what's going on. You can't just extreme stress your body on all angles and expect everything to be okay, right? And it's that balance, like you guys are both saying. It's like, hey, yeah, we're doing this, but there's balance. You're not doing this every day 24/7 and expecting everything to be fine. It is that healthy balance.
Yeah,
So
and we
important.
do see that. We see that too. And I have this saying that I try to tell to my clients, like, when the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem starts to look like a nail.
Very
And
true.
we see it, people get sick. I had people try to train while they had COVID. I was like, please just rest. Like, you have
Yeah.
to rest, because even though exercise often is a good kind of stress, it's still stress.
Right.
Dieting and being in a steep caloric deficit for anybody, it's still stress. Like, it's still a lot of work for your body. So compounding stress on top of stress on top of stress is never going to get somebody where they want to go. I don't think in any area of life, really.
For sure. We call that a perfect storm, right? I mean, we see it. I mean, again, it's what type of stress, but we see this just from experience with our patients of like, I went to a wedding and I was binge drinking and I had to take a flight and I was stressed from work and then I stayed out late and then I'm also going through IBS. And it's like, why then the following week am I just a mess? I'm like, well, let's recap that, right? Like, or add, I'm also trying to train for a marathon, or I was powerlifting the week before. It's like, whoa, that's a lot for your body to handle. So context, yeah, very, very important. Really quickly, I know just one more. This is a great question, and maybe just your perspectives. What do you guys feel? So you're saying, what are healthy body fat percentage for women and men? Where do you, so let's say competition wise, where you're at, and then just day to day, where you just kind of feel more balanced and kind of in that rest and digest phase. like, what are you guys' body fat percentage? I'm curious on that too.
Yeah. So I'll talk about Debbie. I'll talk about women first, and then Giacomo can
Yeah.
talk about men.
Sure.
So for most women to step on stage, that look that you're seeing those pictures of, it's usually somewhere between 10 and 13% body fat for
Wow.
women.
Mhm.
And how do you measure body fat? There's a million ways. They're mostly inaccurate, but just to give you a ballpark,
Right.
a healthier place to walk around. This is going to vary wildly from person to person, but I think for a woman, anywhere from like 18 to 26%
Mhm.
is a healthy place to be. And you might get to 18% and say, I still feel like crap. I feel tired. I feel hungry. You might need to eke it up a little bit. You might get to 26% and feel lethargic and weighed down and not interested in food at all. You might be able to like maintain a little bit lower than that. So you kind of got to feel it out. And your body knows. I think your body knows where you need to live most of the time. But those are my numbers for women. You can talk about dudes.
Most of the time, your body does need to know, excuse me, I'm losing words, does know where it
He's
needs.
at the end of a bodybuilding contest prep, so he's
Mm.
in that place right now.
Yeah, I'm
Yes.
like probably around 5%. Your body, you give your body a chance for like 3 months. And when you're stable for 3 months, if you still don't feel great, if you're lying to yourself because you want to be there, but you still don't feel great, like be honest with yourself, then you know that your body doesn't want to be there. So for a bodybuilding stage look for a dude, you're looking at somewhere between 5 to 10, believe it or not. Everyone thinks it's like 0 to 5 or 0 to 7, like hardcore. No, between 5 to 10. I mean, you could step on stage at 10% and do pretty damn good. You could even win. Just depends on the division and your body composition. I think honestly, I think men try to stay between 9 to 12. That's what they love. They love the idea of it. But I think unless you're a genetic outlier or you've been at it for a very long time, 9 to 12 is just
Low.
not. Yeah, it's hard to get to and it's hard to sustain. And when you stay there, there's typically consequences. So I'd say most men are happy and healthy between 12 to 17, honestly, and sometimes
I
higher.
would say even a little higher than that.
Well, me personally, I stick between 17 to 20, 17 to 19% when I'm building. And if I wasn't building, I'd probably stick to between 15 to 17. And that's even after chasing more muscle for 23 years and 11 years, 10, yeah, going on 11 years consistently. I still stay between 16 to 18
But
personally.
if you're not a competitive bodybuilder and you stay in that range, and then you want to cut 5 or 10 pounds for a vacation or a wedding or a photo shoot or whatever you want to do, that's a pretty safe thing to be able to do, to kind of oscillate back and forth between those two things. With bodybuilding, there's a much bigger weight gains and losses, even in the natural bodybuilding world, which is what we do, the unenhanced bodybuilding. I have to lose almost 30 pounds to step on stage. He lost 45 for this particular competition season. So, take that for what it's worth. And that's just important context, because a lot of the people that folks are seeing on Instagram, that's what they do. So that's not what I would recommend for the vast majority of people.
Right. Yeah. Going back to that celebrity, like if you can afford monthly lab draws of like, I mean, they're probably like $500 to $1,000 worth of labs being done, monitoring constantly, and yeah, pharmaceuticals, let's call them, and on top of everything else, it's quite a lot that people don't realize. So this is wonderful context and important context for sure. And lastly, yeah, I mean, this is great, guys. I really appreciate your time, and this was fun to kind of mix kind of the worlds of kind of the more clinical dietitian and gut health with the bodybuilding fitness side, and kind of being plant-based across the spectrum, and just seeing different professionals in their field and what you can do on a plant-based diet. Like you can do everything, and you can be across the spectrum. So it's really, really cool to see. Where can people follow you guys, find you, and learn more about what you guys are doing?
So you can find Giacomo and myself specifically at veganproteins.com. That's our coaching and information website. You can also check out the Vegan Strong Plant Built team at plantbuilt.com. And that is the world's largest team of vegan strength athletes in the world. And we just competed in Atlantic City last week, actually. So there's lots of fun, inspiring vegan athletes from not just bodybuilding, powerlifting, CrossFit, kettlebell, Olympic lifters. They're all up there. So you can check them out if you're interested in other sports as well.
Very cool. Love it, guys. Yeah, and we'll put all the links below. And depending where you're watching this, links below, and it's going to be fun chopping this up and throwing it out on different platforms, and definitely learn more. Click the links below. And yeah, that's wonderful. I love that. So wonderful talking to you all. For everyone watching, if you're watching live, happy Friday. Have a wonderful weekend. And thanks for joining us. And we'll see you all very soon. All
Thanks for
right.
Hi,
Bye,
thanks for
everybody.